Hey, good afternoon. For another Reboot America blog post. Today, I want to talk about the beginning of the beginning, why I call myself Reboot America, which spells out the foundational work of how I've got to this point in my life, being a denarian and a owner of various currencies and Zimbabwe bonds for this reset. I always say that I've been in the RV movements for 9 years and been in the general awakening of this whole underlying movement for 20. But let me clarify. First of all, in the beginning, when the dinosaurs, oh no, forget the dinosaurs, not that far back. The foundation of who I am and my philosophy comes from my parents and my childhood. I grew up as a Boy Scout. I had a loving father that to me is the embodiment of Christ on earth. He's humble, he's silent, and he's loving. He showed me hard work, humility, and servitude. I come from a world of a philosophy of being a servant, helping my fellow man, being humble, being useful, understanding that if you're born with certain talents, woe is you if the world asks for you to step up and you do not. I don't consider myself a Christian because that's arrogance. I like to think that I'm a Christian. If you see me out and about and you analyze me, you either see Christ in me or you don't see Christ in me. So people ask, are you a Christian? I strive to be, because that's how the first century Christians were, because it was an underground movement. The only way you could know if the person down the street was a Christian is you could just observe them. They have a certain aura to them, to the way they talk, to the way they treat people. So I want to consider myself a Christian, but that's for people to say if I am or not. I believe in the old school of being a gentleman. I believe in the old school of trying to help people when they don't know a certain subject. If you know the subject, help them out. I'm 6'4". If I see somebody trying to reach the top shelf of a Walmart or a Home Depot and I don't help them, woe is me if I can't just say, hey, can I reach out for that? That's my philosophy. Having said that, in the mid-90s, I was a member of a youth group, and later on I became a coordinator in the youth group. And around 2005, 2006, which is about 20 years ago, was when the big hoopla with President Bush about figuring out if we were going to give amnesty to this whole immigration problem, because we've had an ongoing rolling problem with illegal immigration in this country. And if you remember back in 2006, there were these big protests by immigrants demanding amnesty. So one day I come into the church hall and I set up everything for that day's instructions with the youth of the community. And when we started the meeting, they wouldn't get off the subject about, oh, we're so pissed off because immigration, this and that, and they weren't interested in the curriculum I had for that day. We're going to talk about the gospel and relevance to the world today as a young person. So I say, you know what? Okay, you don't want to talk about the curriculum today? Let's talk about what's on your mind. And I told them, it's un-American to bitch and moan unless you put something on the table. So if you're gutsy enough to complain, you better be gutsy enough to put your 2 cents of an opinion of how to fix it. So I told them, nobody's getting out of here without we coming up with solutions. And they looked at me all weird. Wait a minute. You mean we're important enough to give a solution to the situation? And I said, of course. This immigration debate is being orchestrated between the government of the United States and, in this case, the government of Mexico. And it's like an A-B conversation, and you immigrants are see you later. You have no input on this. Why don't we come up with a solution? Because you have skin in the game. You cross the border. You know what it's like to be here as a person bifurcated from your rights. and being mistreated by the level of income you're making and being considered a subclass citizen, what's your solution? So we knocked out a solution. And to tell you the truth, it's genius in its simplicity. It's an actual solution to the immigration problem, which is even more relevant today than it was in 2006. So we drafted it. Being that I'm a student of American history, I'm a patriot, I'm a theologian, I'm an unlicensed attorney in the sense that I study the law as a layman. I'm a nerd of science. I'm a bigger nerd of science fiction. I love literature. I love philosophy. I love theology. But as an American, I wanted to help these young kids understand that it's un-American to just bitch and not bring a solution, because it's an Amera I can, not Amera I can't. And this was refreshing to them. Said, yeah, I got an opinion. Here's what I would do. Hey, I got an opinion. And this is what we do. And then we would put the raw material on the chalkboard, and then we would start molding it into a concise message. Well, we came to a consensus, and we wrote it up in a form of a parchment document. So what I did is over like 2 or 3 meetings, we had our own little constitutional convention. We had delegates, we had representatives, and we knocked out what's called the Patriot Act, or the Patriot Declaration, La Declaración Patria in Spanish. It was written in English, but it was done by the immigrants that are not documented, in other words, illegal. How would they fix the border? And it's genius in its simplicity, and it slaps away the hands of the powers that be that keep people illegal, marginalized, used for political purposes as a battering ram against the Constitution in this country. I took this document. I've never been one to run for office or do anything like that. I just had this beautiful parchment, and something I'm going to share with you the original copy. It was called the La Patria Declaration. It was bilingual, La Patria Declaration. And I had a contact in 2006, a friend of mine that used to be a deputy, that used to be a county representative. He was from the county of San Mateo. He was a county supervisor, and he was handpicked by Bush to be a deputy assistant to immigration issues at the White House. So I reached out to him. I sent him the information with the text of the document. He looked at it. He goes, "This is beautiful." I said, "Can you send it to the president?" So he sent it to the president, and the president, George W. Bush Jr., opened it up, took it apart, put it back together, left some parts out, and he presented it to the American people as a amnesty, which is not what I presented. This was a compact between the illegal immigrants and the American voters. American voters pay the taxes, the American citizens work in our community. It was a peace treaty. It was a treaty of Paris, if you will, where we were asking a path to citizenship while paying our dues of being here illegally without amnesty. President Bush took it apart, put it back together, and he presented it to the American people as amnesty, and he was resoundingly booed off the stage. His phrase, "bringing them out of the shadows," was a bastardization of what we wrote in our document. He plagiarized our document because we put it as "process into the light." Process into the light, take him out of the shadows, means the same thing, but one is a positive comment and one is a negative comment. So obviously he was flawed from the beginning. So that didn't go anywhere, but I still had the parchment. And we had 12 signatories on this document. So I took it, and I always use the analogy. 9 times out of 10, I'm the quarterback. I have the football. If there's nobody to pass it to,